Right now, outside your window, something extraordinary is happening, and almost nobody notices it. The birds in your yard are talking, not just singing, talking about food, about danger, about territory, about your neighbors. And according to scientists who have spent decades studying bird communication, they may already be talking about you. What if I told you that the robin perched on your fence this morning already knows whether you're trustworthy? That the chickadees at your feeder have filed a report on you and shared it with every bird in the yard? That right now, your backyard is running a communication network more sophisticated than most people ever imagine? This is not folklore. This is not wishful thinking. This is peer-reviewed science. And by the end of this video, you'll never hear birdsong the same way again. I'm going to walk you through 6 discoveries that reveal exactly what the birds in your yard are saying to each other and what conclusions they have already reached about you. Stay until the very end, because the final revelation is the most personal one. It genuinely changed how I feel every time I step outside. And if you're new here, welcome to the Backyard Oracle. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel exists for people exactly like you. People who feel something real when birds visit their yard and want to understand why. Let's begin. What most people believe about birdsong is simply not true. We grow up thinking birds sing because it's morning, or because the weather is nice, or simply because that's what birds do. Background noise. Pleasant, but meaningless. Decades of scientific research have completely dismantled that idea. Birds produce structurally distinct vocalizations, different calls, different patterns, different sequences, each carrying specific information. Researchers have identified alarm calls, contact calls, mating songs, territorial warnings, and feeding announcements. Birds are not making sounds, they are communicating. There is a difference, and it matters enormously. What makes this even more remarkable is that this communication crosses species lines. Your yard is not just a collection of individual birds doing their own thing. It is a shared community, and information moves through it constantly. Once you understand this, you start hearing your yard differently. Let's start with the smallest, friendliest voice in your yard, the chickadee. Scientists at the University of Washington made a discovery that stopped the birding world cold. Chickadees don't just make alarm calls when they spot a predator, they encode detailed threat information directly into the call itself. Here's how it works. When a chickadee spots danger, it produces its famous chickadee call, but the number of D notes at the end is not random. The more dangerous the predator, the more notes get added. A large, slow hawk might earn 2 or 3 D notes. A small, agile predator, one that can actually catch a chickadee, triggers an explosion of notes, sometimes 8 or more. Every bird within earshot, regardless of species, reads that alarm instantly. Nuthatches freeze, sparrows drop into cover, cardinals stop moving. The entire yard responds to information encoded in a call that, to human ears, sounds like cheerful chatter. Now, here's what changes everything. When you walk into your yard, chickadees notice. They assess you the same way they assess any large creature entering their space. They measure your movement, your pace, your predictability, and they make a call. What kind of call do they make when you appear? That depends entirely on the relationship you've built with your yard over time. The birds are not reacting to a stranger. They are reacting to someone whose patterns they have already learned. The core takeaway here is this. Birds are constantly evaluating you and broadcasting their conclusions to every other creature in your yard. Now let's zoom out and look at the yard itself, because what's happening there is even more remarkable. Your backyard is not a collection of isolated birds. It functions as a cooperative intelligence network. Robins, blue jays, cardinals, chickadees, these birds are not just tolerating each other. They are actively listening to each other, interpreting each other's signals, and sharing information across species lines. Scientists call this heterospecific eavesdropping. When one species raises an alarm, other species respond. When one bird discovers a food source and signals safety, others take note. Your yard runs this network all day, every single day, in a language most people walk right past without ever hearing. Think about what that means for your yard, specifically. Every feeder you fill, every shrub you plant, every corner of your garden is being observed, discussed, and factored into a collective assessment. The birds are not passive visitors. They are active participants in an ongoing community conversation, and your yard is the neighborhood they're talking about. This interconnected system means that trust spreads. If chickadees decide you're safe, that reputation doesn't stay with the chickadees. It moves through the network. Cardinals are one of the most beloved birds in North America, and they use song in ways that reveal a deeply organized social life. Most people know male cardinals sing. What many don't realize is that female cardinals sing too, and their songs serve a specific functional purpose. During nesting season, a female cardinal will sing from inside the nest or nearby cover. Scientists believe she's communicating with her mate about her hunger and feeding needs. The male interprets this song and brings food accordingly. That's a husband and wife having a conversation about domestic needs, using structured, intentional sound. Males, meanwhile, use their songs for something equally sophisticated: neighbor recognition. Cardinals learn the specific songs of the individual birds who live nearby. Research has shown they respond differently to familiar neighbor songs versus the songs of strangers. A familiar neighbor singing from a known boundary triggers a measured, calm response. An unfamiliar voice in that same location triggers an immediate, aggressive reaction. Your yard's cardinal has memorized the vocal signature of every regular visitor. When a new bird arrives, or when a new human starts appearing regularly, that change is noticed and processed. The takeaway: bird songs are precise social tools used to manage family life, track individuals, and maintain community boundaries. When you watch cardinals at your feeder, you're watching a highly organized family system in operation. Now, I want to talk about crows, because crows take bird communication to a level that genuinely surprises most people. Crows remember human faces. This has been demonstrated repeatedly in controlled scientific studies. Researchers wore specific masks while behaving in either neutral or threatening ways toward crow populations. Weeks later, when those same masks reappeared, worn by completely different people, the crows who had experienced the threatening behavior responded with alarm calls and aggressive behavior. Crows who had not been threatened showed no reaction at all. The face was remembered, the behavior was remembered, and critically, that information was shared. Crows who had not personally encountered the threatening mask still reacted to it, because other crows had communicated the threat. This is not imitation. This is information transfer. Crows discuss specific humans with other crows. Think about what this means for your yard. If crows visit you regularly, they are doing so because somewhere in the local crow community, your yard, and possibly your face, have been identified as a reliable, safe resource. That is a collective decision, reached through communication. If a crow trusts you enough to visit, it's because the group already talked it over. The core takeaway: crows can share information about specific places and specific people, and that information travels. Now I want to bring your attention to a sound that most people completely overlook, because it carries one of the most meaningful messages your yard can receive. When birds are stressed, they produce sharp, loud alarm calls. When birds are at the edge of their comfort zone, they stay silent or leave. But when birds are genuinely relaxed and comfortable, they produce something entirely different: soft, quiet contact calls. These are the low, gentle sounds a flock makes when it's settled. Little murmurs, brief chirps that seem like nothing at all. Researchers describe these as maintenance calls, sounds birds use to stay connected to each other while doing ordinary, peaceful things like feeding and preening. Here's what's important: these calls only happen when birds feel safe. A bird making quiet contact calls has lowered its guard. It's telling the rest of the flock that this moment, this place, this situation is not threatening. When you step outside and hear that gentle, unhurried murmur from the birds around your feeder, you are not just hearing background noise. You are hearing a judgment. The birds have assessed the environment and assessed you and concluded that everything is fine. The takeaway is simple and profound. Peaceful bird chatter is evidence that your yard has passed the test. Now I want to bring everything together, because this final section is the one that stays with people. We've established that birds encode specific information in their calls. We've seen that they share this information across species and across time. We know they remember human faces and pass behavioral assessments between individuals. We understand that peaceful contact calls are not random, they are conclusions. So let's ask the question directly. Do the birds in your yard know you? The answer, based on everything science has uncovered, is yes. They do. Research on bird cognition shows that many common backyard species, not just crows, are capable of recognizing individual humans and adjusting their behavior accordingly. Cardinals, chickadees, and robins have all demonstrated the ability to learn patterns associated with specific people and respond differently based on past experience. Your birds have been watching you. Every time you refill the feeder, they note it. Every time you move slowly and calmly through the yard, they register it. Every time you sit quietly and let them come close, that information is filed and referenced. Over weeks and months, a pattern builds, and birds share patterns. The chickadee that watched you fill the feeder this spring has, through alarm calls and contact calls and the simple social behavior of a small flock, contributed to a collective picture of who you are. You have a reputation in your yard. Not a human reputation, a bird reputation. And that reputation exists in the minds, or more accurately, the learned behavioral responses of every regular visitor to your space. Here is the moment I want you to sit with. Think about the last morning you walked outside and the birds didn't scatter. They kept feeding, they kept singing. A few maybe hopped a little closer to get a better look at you, then went back to what they were doing. That wasn't indifference, that was trust. They had already had the conversation. Maybe not in the way humans have conversations, but through 1,000 small communications, through alarm calls that didn't fire, through contact calls that continued, through individual recognition built up across many mornings, they reached a conclusion about you. You are not a threat. You are safe. You may even be a source of good things, food, shelter, a calm and predictable presence in a world full of uncertainty. Scientists who study human-wildlife relationships sometimes describe certain spaces as fear-free zones, environments where wild animals have learned that the human presence does not mean danger. Your yard, if the birds remain calm when you appear, has become one of these zones. You built it, maybe without even trying, just by showing up consistently, gently, and with care. There is something quietly beautiful about that. We spend so much of our lives wondering whether we matter to the world around us, whether anything notices us, whether the small daily acts of care we offer actually make a difference. The birds noticed, they talked about it, and they decided to stay. The next time you step into your yard and hear that soft, steady sound of birds going about their morning, feeding, calling gently to each other, moving without panic, know what you are actually hearing. You are hearing the conclusion of a conversation that has been happening for months, a conversation about you. And the verdict is in, they trust you. That is not a small thing. In the quiet, honest world of birds, where survival depends on reading situations correctly and making accurate decisions, trust is everything. They don't give it easily. They don't give it carelessly. They gave it to you. Now I want to hear from you. Which bird in your yard seems the most comfortable around you? The one that gets closest or keeps singing even when you step outside? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and I genuinely love hearing your stories. And if this video gave you a new way of listening to your yard, please subscribe to the Backyard Oracle. This channel is built for people who believe that backyard birds are worth paying attention to, because they are always saying something. We're just learning to hear it. Thank you for watching. Go outside. Listen. The conversation is already happening.